think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
It finally happened. After months of courtroom chaos, fiery headlines, and behind-the-scenes meltdowns, The View has officially been canceled. And the fallout is unlike anything television has seen before. This isn't just the end of a talk show, it's a media earthquake. Karoline Leavitt, once mocked on national TV, just brought down one of the most powerful platforms in daytime history, with a lawsuit so massive it left ABC gasping for air. Yes, it's real. The network just confirmed it. The View is done after losing the brutal $800 million defamation case filed by Karoline Leavitt. And let's be clear, this wasn't just about money. It was about payback, truth, and a reckoning long overdue. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin have been completely blindsided. They thought they could smear Karoline on live TV and walk away with applause. But now, they're the ones hiding behind legal teams and dodging cameras. Insiders say the cancellation came straight from the top. One executive reportedly shouted during an emergency meeting, "This show is a liability. Pull the plug before we lose everything." It was panic, pure and simple. The moment the verdict hit the wires, advertisers pulled out, sponsors cut ties, and phones inside ABC rang off the hook with demands for answers.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
The very next morning, staff were told not to report to the studio. The View had gone dark. Joy Behar, known for her smug smirks and loud mouth, was seen leaving the building with tears in her eyes and refusing to speak to the press. One photographer said she looked like she had just lost everything. Because she had. Sunny Hostin, once proud of her legal background, was nowhere to be found. Insiders whispered that she's in talks with private attorneys, trying to protect herself from further legal action. She never expected this to go so far. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of clapbacks, completely silent. She reportedly hasn't spoken to anyone at the studio since the verdict was announced. One producer told reporters, Whoopi disappeared. No calls, no texts, nothing. She's out. And Karoline? She didn't even blink. She walked out of court, head held high, looking like the calm in the center of a storm she personally created. The press tried to swarm her, but she just smiled and said, "This is only the beginning." The lawsuit exposed everything. Internal emails, leaked show notes, and producer messages that laid out the plan to mock and humiliate Karoline on air. It wasn't just opinion, it was premeditated defamation broadcast to millions. One note said it all, "Let Joy hit her with a joke." Whoopi closes hard. "We need something viral." That wasn't discussion. That was a plan. And the court saw it for exactly what it was, a coordinated character assassination.
The View hosts have got themselves into hot water again after they did the very thing they purport to be against, undermining women's success. Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Karoline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was...
A BC thought it could weather the storm. They thought a few PR statements would calm the public. But this time, the outrage only grew louder. Viewers, sponsors, and even celebrities turned against them overnight. Suddenly, Karoline wasn't just a guest. She was a giant slayer. Headlines screamed, "Karoline Leavitt destroys The View." Twitter trended with hashtags like, "Yo cancel The View," "Justice for Karoline," and "John Media Meltdown." Backstage, chaos erupted. Producers were crying. Staff were packing up desks. Security was increased at the building as protesters gathered, demanding the show be taken off the air for good. One staffer whispered, "It's over." We all know it. Ratings had been dipping, but this lawsuit was the final nail in the coffin. Sources say ABC spent days trying to salvage the show, but once the judge ruled in Karoline's favor, every lifeline was cut off. The damage was just too big. One insider admitted, "We've never seen anything like this. It's not just a show ending, it's a brand imploding live on screen." The decision was unanimous. The View would not return. And Joy? She reportedly begged executives to let her issue a personal apology to save the show. "Let me fix this," she said. But it was far too late for apologies. The only thing coming now was consequences. Sunny tried to separate herself from the mess, claiming she wasn't part of the plan. But emails showed otherwise. She was on every thread, in every meeting, nodding along as her colleagues sharpened their knives. As for Whoopi, her silence is speaking volumes. The once untouchable TV icon has vanished, and insiders say she's completely stunned. The lawsuit didn't disappear like all the others, but Karoline wouldn't let that happen. The courtroom didn't just deliver a verdict, it delivered justice. When the jury foreperson stood up and said, "We find the defendants liable for defamation," the entire courtroom froze. Gasps echoed through the room, and then the number, $800 million in damages. Not just a slap on the wrist, a financial knockout that sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
Reporters outside the courthouse nearly dropped their microphones. Cameras flashed as Karoline remained calm, poised, while across the room, the hosts of The View looked like they had seen a ghost. Their empire had just collapsed in front of their eyes, and there was no coming back. Within hours, TV pundits began rewriting the narrative. Suddenly, Karoline wasn't the villain. She was the hero. The woman who stared down daytime television's most powerful voices, and won. One outlet wrote, "Karoline Leavitt just did what no one else could. She shut down The View and changed media accountability forever." That headline alone got millions of shares in minutes, and on social media, it was a wildfire. Clips of the courtroom played on repeat. Memes showed Joy's stunned face with captions like, "You're not laughing now." The public was eating it up. Even major journalists admitted it. Karoline exposed the dark underbelly of how these shows operate. The scripted attacks, the smug ridicule, the unchecked arrogance, all of it laid bare in one explosive trial. Back at ABC headquarters, things were falling apart fast. One leaked memo read, "This is an extinction-level event for our daytime division." Staff reportedly walked out, shocked by the sudden announcement of cancellation. And let's be clear, this wasn't a soft suspension. This wasn't a rebranding. This was the death of The View as we know it. A full, final, and irreversible cancellation, triggered by arrogance and one devastating miscalculation. They never thought Karoline would fight back. They mocked her, underestimated her, and laughed at her on air. But now, their laughter is gone, replaced by fear and regret. Whoopi had reportedly bragged weeks earlier, saying, "She'll never win. We've said worse." But that smug confidence crumbled in the face of undeniable evidence and a courtroom that demanded the truth. Joy Behar, once the show's snarky soul, now finds herself at the center of a media disaster. Friends say she's considering leaving television entirely. One source said she's humiliated. She never expected this to go public.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go.
And the thing is that they're taking pictures of just themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all.
Sunny Hostin, the legal mind of the group, is said to be in full-blown damage control mode. She's reportedly negotiating her own settlement, privately, trying to escape further personal consequences. Even producers, once untouchable, are now being investigated by ABC's internal ethics team. The emails that leaked were so damaging, the company may be forced to clean house completely, just to survive the fallout. Some employees are even threatening to file their own lawsuits, claiming they were forced to go along with a toxic culture that targeted guests based on politics. The dominoes are falling, one by one. And, while the media world scrambles to recover, Karoline is standing taller than ever. Her team released a single powerful statement. No woman should be mocked for her looks, silenced for her beliefs, or ambushed on air. Supporters flooded her page with love. Thousands of messages saying, "You spoke for all of us. You showed us how to fight back. You didn't just win, you made history." One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. They thought she was the joke. Turns out, she was the judge, the jury, and the reckoning. The ripple effects didn't stop at ABC. Networks across the country held emergency meetings. Executives demanded new training for their hosts, anything to avoid becoming the next View disaster. Talk show bookers scrambled to revise guest strategies. Producers were warned, no more ambushes, no more gotcha games, and absolutely no targeting based on politics or appearance. The message was clear. The game had changed. Legal teams from rival networks even started reviewing old footage, worried they might have similar lawsuits waiting to explode. Karoline's case set a precedent, and everyone knew it. Hollywood's elite, once quick to mock conservative women, suddenly went silent. Some even deleted tweets that aged very poorly. The entire media world had just been hit with a reality check they never saw coming. And the public? They couldn't get enough. YouTube exploded with live streams. TikTok filled with edits of the verdict. Memes flooded Instagram. This wasn't just justice. It was a full-blown cultural event.
President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a threat to democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political violence like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a Nazi. That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day.
The phrase "Karoline cracked the code" became the anthem of a generation tired of one-sided media narratives. She didn't just speak truth to power. She dismantled it on live television and in federal court. Meanwhile, ABC's CEO was reportedly furious. Sources say he slammed his fist on the table in a boardroom meeting and shouted, "How did we let this happen?" Staff said the atmosphere was like a sinking ship. Some execs tried floating the idea of rebooting The View under a different name, but it was shot down immediately. One blunt message read, "There's no salvaging this. The brand is toxic." Even longtime fans turned on the show. Calls for accountability flooded every ABC comment section. People were done with the snobbery, the smugness, and the decades of unchecked bias. And as for Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny, their futures remain uncertain. Rumors swirl about retirement, exile from mainstream media, and massive personal lawsuits still looming behind closed doors. Joy reportedly told a friend, "I never thought this would be the end. Not like this." But it was, and she knew it. The View didn't just lose a lawsuit, they lost their legacy. Karoline Leavitt didn't celebrate with champagne. She didn't take a victory lap. She simply gave one final message on her way out of the courtroom. Let this be a warning to anyone who thinks mockery is a substitute for argument. And just like that, she got into her car, waved at the cameras, and drove off into history. Not as a victim, but as the woman who ended the reign of The View.
No, please, his opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those 2 attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political like like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was an That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I'm so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016, because people don't trust.
The next morning, merchandise appeared online. Shirts that said 800 million mic drop, and mugs that read Lawyer Up Joy. Her supporters were making her a legend in real time. And political figures? They took note. Some called her a modern-day warrior. Others said she was the conservative AOC, but with facts and fire. Either way, she had arrived, and no one would ignore her again. So now we ask, was it worth it? For ABC, the answer is obvious. They gambled with arrogance and lost everything. But for Karoline, it was the boldest move of her life and the most successful. Because this wasn't just about her. This was about everyone who's ever been dismissed, mocked, or sidelined by media elites who thought they were untouchable. Karoline touched them, and they burned. And in the end, it wasn't a court that canceled The View. It was their own arrogance. They mocked her looks. They questioned her intelligence, and they scripted her downfall. But Karoline flipped the script on live TV and in front of the world. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they were the voice of the people. But the people were watching, and this time they chose Karoline. The View is no more. The set has gone dark. The lights are off. The applause is gone. And in its place, a silence so loud it echoes across the entire industry. And somewhere, Karoline Leavitt is sitting quietly, smiling, not because she destroyed a show, but because she proved that truth still wins. And no one gets the last word unless they've earned it.